Greetings YouTube, and welcome to my next crafting project. This isn't a weapon, this is going to be a boom for a weather station. My wife has a weather station, she just got it, and it was a gift from a friend of hers. And this is the base for the actual station that goes outside. The readout station is a Bluetooth connection inside. Or radio frequency, I don't know, but yeah. Comfort of your own home, the station stays outside. And I need to put this on a boom, someplace where we can access it because it needs battery changes. So this is the base, the other unit just snaps in the top, you'll eventually see that. Now I want to set it up so that I can mount it here on the second floor of our porch. And I want to get it above as high as I can, so I've gotten a 10-foot piece of steel conduit, which is not here at the moment because it's very awkward. And I want to mount it here, where unfortunately where my lovely little bird will have to move. I'm going to have to move him this way eventually. And what my plan is that I'm going to have it set up like this. And there's going to be a bracket attached to this. And that bracket will attach to the boom. And so that when you don't want it in the vertical position, you'll lay it down, it'll lie along here, and it ends up being about eye level with an 8-foot section. And 2 feet are going to go straight down here on the side. And my goal is to take this piece of 1/2-inch threaded rod, do the measurements, drill a hole deeply into that right there, small enough that I can then screw this into the wood. I want to use the threads on this to go into the wood and then stay permanently. And then this is going to be what we hold it together with. I'll put nuts and such so that when this is in a vertical position, the boom will be in contact with the nuts because I'll have a hole through the boom, and then that will be on the outside to hold it all together. That means that it's easy to remove. Just take that off, lie the boom down, change the batteries, put the boom back, put this in place. That will be the only fastening that we'll have to worry about. And the bracket I'm going to be using is going to sit here on this, so the boom's weight will be connected to this and on the edge here. So the strongest part of my porch, which is this post here, is what's going to carry all the weight. And because of this shape, I'll actually be bridging the gap between those two angled boards. That's actually going to hold everything together. And I'm going to use 3 short screws, and that far screw on this side I'm going to go deeper because that's right over the pole, so I can get the post, so I can get that right there into the wood all the way through this. The other 3 are just going to be in one of these things. And we're going to be using this here as a coupler between here and the conduit, because this screws in here nicely. It's nice and snug. And this will be able to get into the conduit, and I will put a pop rivet there. And then there is a, right there is a set screw. So I'm going to drill a hole in this, and then I'll be able to put a screw right through there. So this will then attach to this after having the plastic been screwed into there. So the whole thing, when it's done, will be all secure, weatherproof, everything's galvanized, so we wouldn't have to worry about rust and such. And the only major issue is going to be moving the bird and getting this thing hole mounted. Now the big issue for me is going to be, I really don't want to have to drill the hole for this threaded rod on a ladder. I would like to see if I can figure out how to drill that from where I am now, standing on the porch, because I am nice and secure on my porch. I don't have to be on a ladder because I really don't like ladders. Yeah. So I'm going to mount the boom here, and once we get the boom mounted onto this, I will then make it go vertical. We'll use a level to make sure it is vertical, and then we'll figure out where this has to go. And once I get the specifics of knowing where this to go, that's the last thing we'll do. I'll drill the hole in the boom itself, and then use the hole in the boom and the vertical boom itself and this to line up, and then make a mark on my post, and that will tell me where I need to drill. I'm probably going to put a point on this so that it's going to look like more of an actual screw when I'm done, so that it'll go into the hole a little bit easier, make my life as simple as possible. Alrighty, so that's how the project's hopefully going to go. We'll see. It's supposed to be sunny today. I shouldn't have any major issues. It's just mostly going to be drilling a bunch of holes in the boom and then attaching everything together, because the biggest thing that needs modification is going to be the boom itself, because it has to have holes for this, and it's going to need holes for both the bracket, and I may put another hole in here. I'm not positive. I may want, you know, if I go like that and put another one in line, because these two are going to be useless to me. So I may put another one. I have to look at the bracket and see the spacing. I haven't checked that, so I have to compare that to the whole process and figure out what that's going to look like. So mostly this is going to be on a bunch of friggin' holes in a 1-inch diameter piece of steel conduit, which is really awkward to get home. Thankfully my wife has a roof rack. I need to get a roof rack for my car. Yeah, I'm hoping I can find one in the near future that fits my Chevy Cruze. I get a 2014 Chevy Cruze. I'd like to get a roof rack so that I can bring home things from the hardware store without having to bug my wife. That would be spiffy keen. Alrighty, so so next up is gonna be a whole bunch of layout. This is how I'm going to hold the boom to the hinge. This is a piece of, I don't know what the heck this is. I got it at cheap at like at an estate sale or a yard sale or something. I don't know what it is originally for. I think it's for like conduit or something, like doing electrical work. But the thing it works for me is that this side is flat and this side has a nice rounded edges, and I can nestle a piece of tubing in there real easy. So I am going to put, unfortunately I couldn't use any of the holes that came with this thing for this section, so I just put 3 holes in here. I put that one, and that one. That way they line up. They align with 3 of the existing openings here in the I don't know what the heck this call this thing, bracket. I don't know what the heck it is, but now I'll be drilling those 3 holes through the boom and attach it. And I'm going to go up a little higher, so I'm going to, because I want a little bit extra strength. So I'm probably going to go up to 2 feet. I think this is a little bit longer than I need. Maybe I'll measure maybe 18 inches, probably maybe about there, and then I'll put in another one up here, and that way I will have 4 bolts holding this to the boom, and this is going to sit on the edge on the actual railing upstairs. So this will be supporting the weight going down, and then there will be a fastener at the bottom keeping this whole thing vertical. So when I'm finished, there'll be 5 fasteners holding the boom in place, 4 of them on this and 1 of them at the bottom holding it to the porch, which is the pinning mechanism. And I'll just be reusing the holes here, just be using the holes that already exist to mount it to the railing. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take some measurements, see where I want to cut it off. That's just a single slice, zoom, when we're done, and I'll deburr it a little. And then I have to start laying out holes in the boom itself. And that's going to be a little bit tricky, because I have to lay out those 3 plus the one up there. I'm going to have to take it upstairs already mounted onto this, and then clamp it in place so that I can figure out where the last hole needs to go. And then I will drill the last hole in the boom and use that to mark on the wood where the hole goes. So that way I'm not going to try to fit the boom to an existing fastener. I'm going to fit the fastener to the boom and then use the fastener as just tap it with a hammer to make a little dimple in the wood. Then I know where to drill. Then I also have to figure out what size diameter hole I want to drill so I can screw that thing in place. I'm going to go a little bit under, probably one step under, and when I figure out the length I need, I'm very likely going to also maybe use using some epoxy on that or two. I haven't decided yet. We'll see how secure I think it feels when I'm done, because the amount of stress on it should be minimal. There'll be no vertical stress, and there'll be very little back and forth stress. So I think I can get away with that. I think. I guess we're going to find out. All right. So now I've got this all set. This is done. I have to get this to length, and that's the only thing I have to do to this. So I just cut the length, so that will be finished. And then it's time to start laying out things on the boom. Thankfully, because these are large, I got a lot of slop. So as long as I get that last hole somewhere inside that oval, we're good. So it's not precision. Just as long as I can get it in there and marked and drilled, we're good. And I'm going to be using 1/4 for all of these fasteners on the boom itself because I've got a bunch of it, and I have my best drill bit for drilling steel is a 1/4 inch because it's the most common hole I use. And again, and with a little bit of lube, it goes through this. It went through this really quite easily. I was quite happy how it went through. All right, so now it's going to be figuring out the length of this bracket or what the heck it is, and then start laying out holes in the boom. And then things got away from me. So I found myself trying to solve a number of problems all at once down in the shop. And I did, but in the process I forgot to film a whole lot of footage. So instead of getting to see this process all done in step by step, you're kind of looking at the finished boom. As I said, the hinge is attached to the bracket, and it's got 3 fasteners that go through all 3 of those. That's bringing all 3 of these items together into one unit. And then we have 1 fastener here, which is just attaching the boom to the bracket here. So this is all set now. Also, I have a 1/2 inch hole right here in the end of the boom, which is where the threaded rod is going to go. Unfortunately, you're going to go upside down. Very sorry about this. There's a hole there for the threaded boom. My original idea was to drill a hole and screw the threading into the hole, and then have it just, you know, act like a giant wood screw. Well, that didn't work. So I've had to go all the way through, and I have. There's a hole right here. The problem is this baluster is now in my way. So this baluster is going to have to go away. It's just not working for me. So that's going to have to come out. And I've got fasteners going this way. I have to take out first, and then I have fasteners going from the outside to the in, because the person that put this together actually knew what they were doing, which is kind of pleasant. So that's going to go away. And it's going to have a gap. It's the same, essentially. I don't think this was actually 100% necessary. I don't know why, but the gap is about the same, and there will be a fastener in the way, so I'm not too worried about anything falling through there. I'm hoping it's not a violation of some kind, but I don't think it will be. Then I still have not, over on this end, I have not put the final hole in here for the mounting bracket, because I was afraid if I put that plastic bracket on there and I was carrying this around and swinging it hither and yon, because it requires a lot of moving around, I knew I'd break it. So rather than break it, I just didn't attach it. And I will have to drill a single hole in that when I'm finished. That'll be the last step. So right now I have to go downstairs, and I've got to cut a 9-inch length of rod, because the one I had is too small now. The rod I have cut for the original idea was too short, and I had a 12-inch piece, so I made it too short. So now I went and got myself a 36-inch piece, so I would have plenty to play with. So I'm going to go cut a 9-inch section, get this thing out, and hopefully assemble the whole unit so that this will be able to slide onto there, and then we'll be able to use a wing nut to hold it in place for everyday use. So we're almost finished with this project. Cut the rod, get the baluster out of the way, put the rod in place, and then finally, once I've proven that it actually works correctly, and I can tune the length of the rod by moving it in and out slightly, so I can get the correct distance for the fastener and such. Make sure, because, you know, they're coming in an arc, I have to make sure that the boom swings onto that pin correctly. So I have to make sure that the length of the pin is not interfering with the arc. And then drill the hole, and then we're in business. So right now I'll go downstairs and start working on the finished rod, and then come upstairs and start monkeying with the baluster, and which I will save and use in some kind of project, and then hopefully get this thing in a vertical position in its permanent configuration. So fingers crossed. Well, let's hear it from my contractor Bo using good quality fasteners. They were a pain to get out, but that means they're well put together, so kudos to him, and only one of them broke. Yeah, one of them broke in there, but that's life. And let's also hear it for this Klein ratcheting wrench here. This is just the best damn tight space right angle wrench I have ever used. I love the thing. I cannot recommend it enough. Go get yourself one. But getting this one out, which was the fastener on the top up here, took more time, twice the time that it took to get all the other fasteners out, because the space was so tight and I was coming into conflict with all the boards up here. So yeah, I had to get a pair of channel locks out, and I had to like actually screw this thing out after a certain point, because I can only use that to a certain extent because of that, you know, limited space in there. So yeah, getting that one out was a pain. And what I have with is a baluster, which is in not bad shape. The problem is my porch gets southern sun, and it just gets so hot out here. We treat this thing every year with finish, and it still gets incredibly dry, and there's nothing I can do about it. This is just, my house is just made for solar, and someday I'm hoping to have some. Okay, so this is all done now. So now I can get the fastener I want to get my bolt in there, which is already cut. Get all the fastening, get all the figure out which size wrenches I need, and then get that in place, and then we can actually finally fit this thing, and hopefully it will function the way I want it to. And all these things will, well, the bad one's going to go in the garbage, but the other ones are going to go downstairs along with the baluster, and I will find a use for them for some kind of a future project. Well, there's been a complication. I know you're probably shocked that one of my projects has a complication in it. So what happened? Well, when I marked the location on the beam for the hole, I used my fastener that I had made, that the idea originally of just screwing a threaded rod into there, as the marking tool, and I shouldn't have, because the hole's not in the location, and I cannot change the location of the hole in the beam. That's a non-starter. So I have to load, and I don't want to change the location in the hole in the boom either. So what can I do? Well, this has slots, and 2 of these slots are already set. The bolts go like in the middles of these, so I have slot. This one, it does not. It rests, the bolt rests, my threaded rod rests like right there. So this entire section has to go, and I have to take this out, because I have to get this whole thing to move down, drop approximately 1/2 inch. If I could get it go down 1/2 inch, then we'd be golden. And I'm going to have to cut off this 1/2 inch, because this is now not going to sit on the railing, because again, everything's shifting down 1/2 inch. So I need to cut off 1/2 inch here, cut this section out, and then open this section up a little. And I don't 100% know what the best method of doing that's going to be yet, because I don't want to lose this. So I just don't want to cut, you know, I could just, you know, real simple solution is just cut a slot there. I don't want a slot there. I want there to be metal here. I want that to have structural integrity. So we'll figure out how I can do that one the best. I have some carbide bits. I may use the carbide bits in my power drill and see if that will work. This, however, is going to be pretty straightforward. That is just take my angle grinder and just go zing, zing, and then it's gone. So that's fine. I have to put some safety gear on. I have to have none of that on except for my shop shoes. So I need to suit up, get some safety gear on, and then start machining this part, and then see if I can make this 1/2 inch deeper. Actually, it's a little less than 1/2 inch on this end, because there's a smidge, there's about that much play between the shaft of the threaded rod and the top of this hole. But I want to give myself a little bit of slop room if I can. You know what I mean? I have just a smidge too much to play with and have too little. And there's the original bolt that I was going to make. I made this. Whoops! I have a threaded rod. And that just didn't work out. So yeah, pissed me off. This project would have been completed already if this idea had functioned, but this idea did not function because I didn't want to have a hole going all the way through the beam because that lets water get inside all the way through. But I can seal it with silicone, I guess, when I'm done. But right now I have to take care of this. If I hadn't cut this, if I had still had a 1 foot at foot, 12 inches of this, I wouldn't have had to go get another threaded rod. Live and let live. I guess, learn your lessons. Always have more threaded rod around than you need because you're always going to need it. It's very useful. Okay, so cut this out, open this up, and then go back upstairs and try to get the whole thing to come up. And also take a 1/4-20 nut with me because when I took this thing apart, I lost one in my lawn. Yay. Further complications. So, discovered after putting this upstairs and trying to make it work that this needs slots, because if I want the boom to not have slots in it and the bracket already has slots in it, this has the have slots in it, so everything can drop down a 1/2 inch. So I need to put slots in this, and everything needs to go everything needs to drop this way, so I need to put slots above each of these holes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, sorry about the reflection, I'm going to drill a 1/4 inch hole as close as I can get to each of these holes, and then clean out the material between the 2 holes. That will give me the slot I need and give me enough space, and it won't be overly large. And I don't like doing this because that actually gives me play in a way I don't want, but it still won't give me any play in this direction because the slot's going to be a 1/4 inch and the bolt's 1/4 inch. So everything should still be secure. It's just annoying. And I could have solved all of this if I had just marked the hole at the bottom of the boom for the bolt that goes through my beam correctly. And that is what I did wrong. I marked that hole wrong. Because I marked that hole wrong, I have to make all kinds of modifications to my entire boom to get it to work. Because I can't move the bolt that's in the beam. So I got to modify the boom rather than the beam. So now I'm going to set up my drill. I think I already got the drill bit in there, but I have to I have a V-block set in there at the minute. Get the V-block out, adjust everything because this is nice and flat. Mark it, and then drill three holes, and then do some cleanup. It's very tedious. It's not exciting. This is just stuff you have to do, and it's very frustrating. All right, I now have 3 slots. 1, 2, 3, and these 2 were easier because I was able to drill 3 holes. So I drilled the second hole, then I was able to drill one between it, and that's what left me very little metal between them. This one was much more tenacious. I could not get the third one to go all the way through. So as I'm doing the third hole, my drill bit just walked out. So I ended up with a bridge in there, and that was a pain in the ass to get rid of. I used my carbide bit in my drill to help kind of wear a slot in it, and once I had that done, then I started using a combination of these 2 files. This file is a finer tooth on it, but it's a longer handle and it's a little thin. It's thinner, so I could get it in there faster. This is a little rougher tooth, but it's square and it's thicker, so I could get some control, but I couldn't get the long strokes I wanted. So the combination of those 2 got these 2 to be better. This was actually my best one right there. That one looks very well done. Of course, the reality is that this would not be a problem if I had a mill. I don't have a mill though. I would love a mill. It would make my life so much easier if I had a mill. A milling machine would be the most important tool I could probably get my hands on. It would be more important than a lathe. I don't do a lot of turning, and I don't have a lot of ideas that involve a lot of turning. Some, but nothing. I mean, it would be nice if it would be ancillary, but no. But a milling machine would make my life so much easier. But I don't have the money, and I don't have the wiring for it either. So now we're going to take this upstairs, and we're going to reassemble the whole GD thing all over again, and then we're going to see what happens, and see if I can get this damn thing to work. I sure hope I can. Yay! Okay, this hinge is absolutely destroyed. I have ruined this hinge. I have no use for it any longer, at least not at the minute. I may take this and find a home for it in some other project. I'm not sure. Not only did I make the first adjustment I showed you, but I then came back and made a second adjustment, which is that big ugly thing, because at that point I was very unhappy with myself and the project, and I had been really kind of pushing myself. I'd been at the job for like 6 hours at that point, and that was a total of about 9 hours into the project. And it was only after making an adjustment for like the third time that I realized that I had been removing material from here. And moving material from here is never going to allow a boom to go down when I need to remove the material from here. Yeah, I was removing material twice from the wrong side of the hole. So this is destroyed, gone. So we'll put that aside. Again, maybe it'll come back in another project in the future. This is the new hinge, which I just picked up, and now it's got the holes in the right size. So these 3 holes, that one, and this one, these 2 here, these 3 there, those are going to be going through the boom and making the connection. This one here, no, sorry, it's these 2 and that one. That one, I think it's that one. Hold on a second. I'll flip this thing over. Yeah, that's the bottom one. The bottom one is going to be the one that is going to be a rivet, and that's going to be rivet as well, because when I'm finished doing the whole assembly and I've got everything exactly where I want it, I am then going to rivet the hinge to the bracket. So when I'm done, it's all going to be one cohesive. The hinge and the bracket will be one unit. So if I ever have to remove them, they will go back into the same location the second time. So that's the last thing I need to do is that riveting process. But I want to drill the holes now because it's a heck of a lot easier to do it because I already got the drill press set up. And that means when I go to drill the hole in the bracket, I don't need to put it into my drill vise, into my drill press. I can just drill it by hand because I'll already have a guide hole. I have 2 guide holes right there. Zing, zing, pop rivets in, we're done. So that'll be nice because that'll be a simple process. I like simple processes. So now that I have this correct, it's going to go back upstairs, and I'm going to use these 2 holes as I did for when I set these holes up. These 2 holes here to hold the hinge to the banister. Put everything back where it has to go, and then see if it works. I do have to open up the hole in the banister for the bolt, though. I made it too tight, and I need to go up at least 1 step on that to give it a little bit more room to move, and that way I can know how much of the bolt can I have sticking out past the boom for it to still swing properly like this. That's the kind of the mystery at the moment. So I have to take that boom and open up the hole slightly with the step drill, and then it's assembly time. We go back upstairs and we try it one more time, and if that works, then we're done. And I don't know if I have the ability to drill those 2 holes upstairs. Maybe not. It'd be kind of cumbersome doing it up there with my hand drill. Not impossible. I may give it a shot. I'm stubborn. We'll find out. It'll be easier to take it back downstairs. I'm tired of taking this thing up on and off that boom, that banister. Really, really tired of this. Okay, you've been listening to me blather on long enough. Time for assembly and more fitting. It's finally done. I am finished. So here we have the thing fully mounted. I'll put it up vertically in a minute and show you what it looks like. But here they have the unit in the rest state, and this is the fixture that my wife will then mount her weather station here, and this is the small sheet metal screw that I put in here to hold everything in place. So this is actually a really nice snug fit to begin with. This is a 1-inch piece of electrical conduit, and this is a piece of galvanized tubing that just happened to be the right size. I had to do nothing to this. I did drill a hole and rivet it in place so it's not going anywhere. And then I just in here, just holding it in place, keep it from moving this way, but it's a nice snug fit. So let's come back up here. And being at the height it is, you only have to go down 2 steps, so that's still quite comfortable. And here is the hole that I drilled. I had to open it up a bit, and in fact there's a burr in there I can see, but I don't really care at this moment. It's on the inside, and that fits down onto here, which is how it's going to be stay in place, and it uses a washer and a wing nut to make it easy to take on and off. So now I will make it vertical, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So here we have it in the fully mounted state. We have 4 fasteners. These are 2 long lag bolts going right in, and this one's going in. These 2 are going right into the support structure. These 2 are just going into the railing itself. But everything is now staying very much in place. It's not going anywhere. It is nice and rigid. I cannot move it easily. So these are just going to stay here. I could make them shorter, but screw it. I got actual bolts. I had made some some quarter-inch bolts of my own out of quarter-inch threaded rod, but I hadn't cut them long enough. They were kind of annoying, and having a nut on each end meant that there was more flexibility for movement. This means there's only a nut on one side, so that's fine. And we're just going to leave them along. I don't care at the moment. We have 2 rivets which are holding this to this. They do not go into the booms. The boom is not attached to this other than these 4 fasteners. And this one is just attaching here and acting for greater stability. And there is the connection that holds the whole thing in place. And those 2 nuts on the inside are acting as a backer. They prevent it from going any further towards the post. And this is holding the bulk of the weight right here, as well as the hinge, of course, and that is actually free floating. The boom is not actually touching that threaded rod at all. My wife is currently inside getting her station set up, put batteries and such in it, and I have to tell you, doing this project has shown me how bad my vertigo is, because right now I am holding on to the banister, because I find this very disconcerting. Interestingly, it's more annoying to me doing it with the camera. When I'm looking at it with just my eyes, it's less annoying. There's something about looking at it through the camera and in reality at the same time that just sets me off. I don't like it. Alrighty, so there we go. We're all set with this, and now again I'm going to bring it back down. My wife's going to get the station hooked up, and then we'll show you what the station looks like. And I think there's a breeze today, so you might actually get to see a little action.